Setting up your A6400 camera can be tough, but today I will show you how can you set up your camera for photography and taking your first pictures. We will do it together step by step, so pick up your camera and get ready. But before, if you're new here, I'm Peter and I make camera tutorials and reviews, so if you like to see more, subscribe to my channel and I really appreciate it. It will be tough, but try to follow me. Let's do it. Camera settings. First of all, turn the mode dial on the top to the M letter. It means that your camera is on manual mode, and we would like to use it on manual mode. Please don't use the auto mode. Then press the menu button and go to page 1 on the left side. Set the file format to RAW, because we only shoot in RAW. This gives you the best flexibility in the editing process. You can leave the JPEG quality because we don't use it, and leave the JPEG image size too. Next point is aspect ratio. We would like to set it to 3:2 because this shows the whole image. Next page. Long exposure noise reduction is on and the color space is sRGB. You can leave the lens compensation. Page 3. Set the drive mode to the single shooting because we would like to take one picture at the same time. And you can leave the rest. So next page. Next page, focus mode. This is important. We would like to set it to continuous autofocus. It means that if you hold down halfway the shutter button, the camera will try to focus to the subject. And balanced. And the focus area is important again. You can set there which zone do you want the camera focus. I set it wide because it's the best in my opinion, but you can change it if you want to focus, for example, to a specific point or something, but my recommendation is wide. Leave the rest in this page. Next page. Autofocus illuminator off. Go to the face/eye autofocus settings and in the first one is on. Subject detection human. Next one is auto. Face detect frame display is on. Animal eye display on. Leave the rest in this page. Autofocus auto clear off. Display of the continuous autofocus area is on. Circulate set to does not circulate. Go into the autofocus micro adjustments and there turn it off. And go back and go to the page 8. In the ISO settings, I set the range limit to 100 to 12,800 because I think above that the image will fall apart, so you can go higher. Go back and set the metering mode to multi. It shows that how your camera processes the current exposure. Sometimes I use spot metering, but now the multi is good. Phase prior in multi metering is on. Next one is center. And you can see the exposure step settings. In the next page, leave the AEL W/shutter in auto. In the page 10, flash mode is fill flash, leave the flash compensation, ambient flash, wireless and red eyes are off. We almost finished with the deep settings. White balance is auto now, priority set in white balance is standard. Next one is D-range optimizer, next one is standard. Picture effect is off. And picture profile is off now, because we use it in video mode and it can affect your picture in bad ways. Next page. Soft skin effect off. Shutter auto widespread lock is on continuous shooting. Next page. Focus magnifier time is on no limit. Initial focus magnifier is X1. Next one is on. Manual focus assist is off. In peaking settings I set the peaking display to on and peaking level to high and blue. You can choose other colors, but the blue was my favorite. In the next page, leave the face registration. Regist faces priority on and the rest are off. Go further to shutter/steady shot. Set the silence shooting to off, because indoors it can affect bad artifacts like horizontal lining because of the artificial lights. Next one is on and leave the rest. And go to the page 6. Leave the display button, finder/monitor, I set to monitor because I always shoot looking at the monitor, and sometimes the screen goes black if I leave it auto, usually because my hand or something covers the viewfinder. So if you would like to use both the monitor and the viewfinder, leave it in auto. Finder frame rate is standard, zebra settings are off, so next one. The next one is very important, the grid line. I set it to the rule of thirds grid. It causes these guidelines on your frame and it helps a lot at composing. This last one is on. On the page 7, live view display is on, auto review is off. I don't like when the camera shows automatically the pictures. Leave now the page 8. In the page 9, set the function of touch operation to touch focus. It means when you touch the screen, the camera will focus to that point when you push halfway the shutter button. You can leave the rest. Go further to playback page 2 and set enlarge initial magnification to standard and enlarge initial position to focused. Go further, set to monitor brightness to sunny weather because it makes your screen brighter, but I set it to manual now. Go to the page 3 and set the touch operation to on. And we finished with the deep settings. I know it was boring, but you have to set it once. So we take a rest with our next relaxing point, which is the KEYBIND. Press the menu button again and go to the second tab, and there go to the page 8. Go into the first one. There we will set my most used functions, so I recommend you to set up like mine. On the page 1, the first one is registered focus area. If you go into it, you can find the settings on the page 5. Go back with the menu button and go to the second one. For me, it's the tracking on. You can find it on the page 5. It means if I switch down this and I press the shutter button halfway, you can see that the camera start focusing, and if I press this button, then the camera start tracking the last focus point until I release. So it can be a very helpful thing. Go back to the third one and you can find it in the page 13. It means when you switch to manual focus and you're not sure that the focus is okay, then press this button and it zooms into the image. Then you can check the focus. Anyway, because of the focus peaking, you can see a blue line around my main focus. Go back and go to the next tab. I set the middle button to the same as the first bind. You can find it in the page 5. Because I like using both when quickly I would like to focus to the center. Next one is autofocus manual focus control toggle. You can find it on the page 3. It switches between the autofocus and manual focus. I use this a lot, so I recommend it. Next one is ISO. You can find it in the page 5. With this you can set the ISO level on your camera. The ISO is the sensor sensitivity of the light. And the last one is silent shooting. You can find it in the page 13. It means that your camera would not make that click sound when you press down the shutter. So it switches to electronic shutter, but be careful indoors because it can affect bad artifacts like horizontal lining because of the artificial lights. And don't shoot quick motion with these settings because the lines can bend a lot. I recommend to use it, for example, in an outdoor wedding where I don't want to bother the couple with my clicking sounds. So next one is the small button on the top. I set it to auto white balance lock toggle. You can find it on the page 11. I use it when I'm auto white balance and sometimes the lights are changing and the white balance can change heavily, so I lock it down. Because in the editing part it's so much harder to correct a lot of pictures with a lot of white balance settings than one. Because I set it once and I copy it to the others. The last hotkey is on the page 4. I set it to focus hold, which is on the page 6. But I don't have APS-C lenses with this feature, so I don't use it. See how relaxing it was? Maybe next time I will name my video to camera settings and chill. Quick function menu. So we set up our camera deep settings and we're done with the hotkeys. We have a quick function menu where we can put our important settings, because you saw that the old Sony menu system is not that smooth. So if you press the FM button, you can access that. Now we will attach the important functions here. Press the menu button and go to the page 8 of the second tab. And there is the function menu settings. Press OK and you can see my settings. You can find the drive mode on the page 2. You can set here that you would like to shoot one or multiple pictures at the same time. Or set a self timer like this. On the next one, you can set the focus mode. You can find in the page 3. You can change your focus mode if you would like to go manual or something else, but I recommend it to leave in autofocus continuous. Next one is focus area. You can find it on the page 3. I think the wide is the best, but you can set the focusing zones. Next one is gamma display assist. You can find it in the page 14. I think you will use it for video, so for photography you can leave it auto. Next one is zebra. You can find it on the page 12. With this you can see if the highlights are burned out or not. Next one is face priority in autofocus. You can find it in the page 3. It means that if you hold something up to the camera, it will focus there and not your face. Sometimes it can be useful, but leave it on. Next one is metering mode. You can find it in the page 4. This means how your camera processes the exposure. I like to use multi or spot. Sometimes I shoot specific things like products or interviews, then I measure the exposure on the target, for example on his face. But usually I use multi-metering. Next one is the picture profile. You can find it in the page 6. You can use it for video, so in photography the best to turn it off. But basically it compresses down the highlights and the blacks to make a flatter image, and later you can expand it again and you will have a better dynamic range. But in photography you don't need it, because we shoot in RAW and the RAW has so much more information than the normal video files. Next one is white balance. You can find it in the page 6. It changes the temperature of the light. Usually I leave it on daylight, which is around 5600 Kelvin, but you can set it to auto. Next one is audio signals. You can find it on the page 13. I use it mostly on video mode if I want to be sure that the recording has started, but usually I leave it off. The next one, you can see the microphone levels. You can find it in the page 10. I use it in video again. Usually I set the level 5 to 10 if I use an external microphone, and I set the level around 20 to 25 if I use the internal microphone. And next one is shooting mode or drive. You can find it in the page 2. I use it when I would like to change the camera from manual to half automatic. You can set an aperture and the camera tries to compensate the exposure with other settings like shutter speed. I use aperture priority mode when I use the kit lens at street photography. The kit lens has a variable aperture, and if you zoom the image will be darker. So there, this exposure compensation can be very useful. I show you how I use it usually. I turn on the camera, turn the dial to the manual mode, then I press down the shutter button halfway, then it starts to focus and I see my image is so dark, so I open my lens aperture. Push it to 1.4 and play with the shutter speed with the front dial and with the ISO with the right button. Try to keep the ISO down if it's possible, or your image will be very grainy, and try to keep your shutter over 1/100 or your image will be blurry. So you have to find the balance. If I achieve the relatively correct exposure, I try to find an interesting angle or composition, and there I try to focus with the shutter or with my thumb with the center button, or if my camera doesn't find my target, I touch the screen and take a picture. You can touch always the screen if you want to focus, but after it don't forget to cancel the focus point with the middle button or your normal focusing will be messed up. After I take the photos, I copied the files to my PC and import to Lightroom. Edit it and export it. And I finished. It was tough. Next time I will make tutorials about camera settings for videography, photography and video basics, photo editing and color grading basics. So if you like my color grade and you would like to support me, you can buy my preset pack through the link in the description below. It helps you to create unique look without deep diving into the sliders and color wheels. That's all for today. It was tough. If I forgot to mention something, leave the comment below. Thank you guys for watching and don't forget to subscribe. I hope you enjoyed and see you guys in the next one. Peace!